Hola, bon dia, and welcome to the Resident News Review for the 26th of June, 2026, where we'll be looking at the PM's Sovereign Wealth Fund, which has gone down like a lead balloon, I think it's fair to say. Paul Rees is joining us in just a moment to discuss that. I want to talk about the complaints that have been coming in about Portuguese dating apps and actually how to meet that special person here in Portugal. Maybe Paul and Natasha can help with that, with some advice for anyone looking for romance in Portugal, maybe through the traditional routes. And of course, the horrific news coming in from Venezuela that Natasha will cover this morning. Before we go there, Natasha, how are you this morning?
Good. I'm really glad it's the end of the week, though.
And the end of the month. That month, where did it go? Where did June go this year?
So fast.
It absolutely whizzed by. Okay, without further ado, let's bring Paul onto the screen now, joining us from a vehicle. Thank you so much, Paul, for being with us this morning. I think it's fair to say this month caught up with all of us, and thank you for joining us at short notice, basically. I remembered it was the last Friday of the month when you joined us, and you have manfully shown up in central Portugal. How is it there?
Yes, it's overcast and quite cool, which is really hugely welcome after a few blastingly hot days. But it's sort of mid 30s all next week, so we're back to June. But yeah, I don't know where June went. July. No. This is more been like July, August weather. But
yes, absolutely.
Weather, how very British discussing the weather.
Yeah, it is. And just to check, the safari suit and pith helmet are back in the wardrobe now, are they?
Yeah, they are. Yes, they've been brushed off and stored. Yeah.
Good, very good. Okay, before we move on to the housekeeping, we are very close, dangerously close to having 1,000 subscribers for the Portugal Resident YouTube channel. Help us make history this morning. If you're watching live, please make sure you've subscribed and tell your friends to tune in every Friday and get the notification, get the reminder by subscribing, and help us perhaps get over 1,000 subscribers live this morning. Okay, over to Venezuela, Caracas, Natasha. Horrible news coming in. We've seen a number of deaths already from the earthquake, but that's expected to rise sharply. What have you been reporting on as far as the Venezuelan double earthquake?
Yeah, in the case of Portugal, we're reporting on the number of Portuguese descendants and Portuguese nationals. Most of them are just Portuguese descendants. They've been out there for a generation or two at least.
Yes.
And we're reporting on them, and they've had a terrible time in Venezuela anyway, because we all think that Venezuela's, everything has changed since the Americans prized Maduro out of his stronghold, but it hasn't really. The political prisoners are still in jail. The poverty is still there. The corruption is still there. Basically nothing has really changed, and the buildings were never built to great specifications, and this is why there's been such terrible devastation. There's never been any great concern about how they're constructed. There's nothing like the kind of regulations that we have in Portugal, even. And we don't know how great we're going to be when we get the next earthquake, which they always say is coming.
Well, there is that, isn't there? Yes, it's a reminder of that, isn't it? And we notice here that Portugal is trying to do its best to help those under the rubble still. That's where we're at, really, isn't it? In Venezuela. Many more to come.
Yeah, some teams have already got there, which is great. But I mean, the Portuguese team, when I was listening on the radio this morning, they still, according to Antena 1, still hadn't set out. And Caracas Airport, I understand, is not even taking arrivals presumably because of the damage. So they've got to land somewhere else and then get. Yeah. But I think La Guaira is the area that is worst hit. And people can't last for too long under the rubble.
No, indeed.
So, it is really a very serious... There's a projections that I was looking up before we went on air, and I can't remember exactly who it is that made these projections. The United States Geological Survey. And their model is that the deaths could actually end up between 10,000 to 100,000 people. At the moment, we know that 50,000 are missing.
Yes.
Of which, obviously, loads will be Portuguese descendants. But the official death toll of Portuguese so far is only 6. But I mean, this is very early days.
Indeed. Yes. And that connection there between Portugal and Venezuela going back a long way. And of course, yes, they had enough on their plate already with domestic difficulties and challenges. And now this, the earthquake, which will be unfolding as we speak, and more people presumably discovered under the rubble. Anything else to add to this? And we'll go to Paul in just a moment as well, Natasha. Hopefully our crew will be able to get to Venezuela today or over the weekend to help with the rescue.
Oh God, let's hope they get there today. No, yes. I haven't got anything else to add because it'll be all coming in dribs and drabs, you know, as it happens. But it's a really bad situation. And of course, the other thing is the only good thing, because there's always good things come out of disasters. So, you know, there's always something good. They do hope that this will precipitate elections, because the people there are not happy with the way America's left things in the hands of Delcy Rodriguez, because she's part of the corrupt regime anyway. And so they're desperate to get, and she's not been, obviously, who could be prepared for this kind of phenomenon anyway, but it's quite clear how little preparedness they had. They didn't even have, you know, earth moving equipment to gently try and clear any of the rubble. They had nothing. People are working with their own hands, really.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
So people will be very angry as well.
And you can only look on feeling helpless. Well, certainly that's how I feel as well, seeing this and getting some sense of the scale, which is horrific. Thank you, Natasha. You'll continue to report on this, obviously, in The Resident. Go for the headlines over to portugalresident.com for continuing coverage from Natasha, keeping an eye on that situation in Venezuela. I don't know, Paul, if before we move on to the PM's Sovereign Wealth Fund ideas, did you want to add anything about Venezuela?
Only that it becomes clear when the government fails and people think, oh, the government will help, there'll be emergency services, there'll be earth moving machines, drugs, water. It doesn't happen. And that's when governments are left wanting, and then the politicians start spouting, and it's shocking. And people's daily lives, they think, oh, the state will care. You know, if something bad goes wrong, the state's there, we pay our taxes. And it's often an illusion.
Yes, as they might be discovering.
In a different way, it reminded me of COVID and the European response, which was zero. There was no coordination. There was no EU policy. Each country was left to its own devices, basically. And you think, well, what's the central body for? What's the EU for? What does Brussels do all day? There was no guidelines, nothing. And you think, oh, okay, so actually it is down to the individual, which is sometimes not a bad thing. But I think in this earthquake situation, there's so much reliance on foreign aid. There's airports that, as Natasha said, don't function. And that whole machine takes a while to sort of grind into operation. And in the meantime, people are dying under the rubble. So it is deeply saddening.
It is. And people will be looking to America, won't they? And I guess the fans and opponents of Trump will be seeing what political capital he will make of it. And I think go on, Natasha.
Yeah, the Marines are there already under some general. So at least they got there and they are working.
Yes. And I suspect many imagining that Trump will turn this to his advantage and not let a disaster go to waste as it is perhaps a political response to many things, not just him, but generally speaking in politics. And the Venezuelan people won't mind that, because I don't think they were necessarily happy or fans of him. They were just happy about what he brought about through his hubris. And perhaps that same hubris might work with a massive input of help and support from the United States as they begin to their efforts to put things right in Venezuela after discovering the extent of death, injury, and the destruction to infrastructure. Okay, let's move on then to the Prime Minister, Paul. PM's Sovereign Wealth Fund plan raises more questions than it answers. That's not like Portuguese politics, is it? Go ahead.
The report on this in the Resi was absolutely bang on. I mean, this is absolute nonsense. So sovereign wealth funds are set up from countries that have massive surpluses, either through oil, through an accumulation, even accumulation of tax in a pension funds for for future pensions. Portugal, its economy is relatively well run compared to a lot of Europe, which is fine. It does not have a massive structural surplus. A sovereign wealth fund, it's a political nonsense. What they want to do is raise money basically from taxpayers, and on the open market they'll be paying 4 or 5%. There'll be massive bond issues to do what? This is capitalism through the back door, which is really odd. What the government want to do is to have a large amount of money that they can bail out things like Banco Espírito Santo and TAP without having to go to Parliament. It's quite simple. It'll be high if it ever comes about, which it won't. It can be done, but under such strict rules. It needs to be run by investment managers. It needs to be extremely clear what it does. It needs no political interference. And
is he not an investment manager, Paul? Can I just clarify?
Sorry?
Is the Prime Minister not an investment manager?
Yeah, but he's the Prime Minister.
True. Yes.
This is just such a political move, and it's to give them enough money to bail out all their mates, basically.
Oh, okay.
And the thinking behind it is wrong. The structure behind it, the proposed structure, is wrong. And whatever they say in terms of independence, and it'll be run by investment managers, etc., the source of the funding, they're borrowing it. Why set the whole thing up? We've got the manager of state assets anyway. What is it, Natasha? Parapublica. We've got that kind of runs things anyway and trundles along. The politicians, if they want to, can bail things out, which they have done. You don't need to put in a structure just to make that easier. So it is a complete nonsense. Portugal's not in a financial position to set this up, and why would you? It's backdoor capitalism under the current regime, and the next regime will just shut it if they've got any sense.
Exactly.
Natasha, have all the plaudits gone to his head? There's been a lot of compliments about the economy, and Portugal's done very well in terms of public perception and awards, as it were, not official awards, but you're doing so well over there. Fantastic. Has it gone to his head, Natasha?
Yes, definitely. This was an espresso story, and it was a really good one, as Paul says, and then it reminded me of what the PS the socialist leader said, which is, this is a government that just keeps making announcements. It keeps saying how, we are the most fantastic, we are the most wonderful, we're doing this, we're doing that. They don't actually do it, they just say it. And then, as he said, if governments were judged on the basis of their announcements, yes, our government would be the best in the world. But it isn't like that. And actually, the thing he said, I thought was really wonderful, but I don't think I've got it anywhere. At the bottom of the story, have a look, Carl. You've got the story up. He said a sentence, and I just thought it was lovely. I can't see.
If governing were about making announcements, well, we would certainly have one of the best governments in the world, he told reporters. This is Senor Carneiro, I think, on the sidelines of a working visit to the Ramirez fish canning factory in Matosinhos on Monday. But since governing is about more than making announcements, then we are, in fact, in a much worse position.
Yeah, and he said it, he just put his finger on it. I actually like this man, Carneiro, because he's a very kind of middle-of-the-road socialist.
Yes.
And he said it absolutely spot on. This is just a government that's, I don't understand. They keep making announcements and saying how marvelous they are, and they expect everybody to just believe it.
The guy brilliant at this was Tony Blair, where he'd make an announcement such as, we're going to set up a sovereign wealth fund. He wouldn't consult anyone. He'd make the announcement, then stand back. And then all the interested parties and pressure groups and people to be affected would say, oh, that's an awful idea, or that's a great idea. He would then balance it out and then go ahead or not go ahead. So it was actually a really quick way of finding out public and interested party reaction. I don't think there's such strategy at work here. I think it's just a flight of fancy. If there's a surplus, just pay down debt. I mean, it goes back to Thatcherism and running a corner shop. Just pay off your bank loans. You don't need to set up a whole new investment fund to go and invest in something different to pay off your bank loans.
I suppose it depends on which economic theory you subscribe to, doesn't it? Here,
pay off cards first.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, economists will say no, it's not like a corner shop or a household. It's different when you run a country. You can just keep expanding and borrowing more.
Borrowing.
A little bit of analysis then. PM Luis Montenegro has announced a new sovereign wealth fund letting the state take equity stakes in strategic sectors. Of course, the usual suspects, as you would expect, energy, banking, telecoms, and airport infrastructure. If concessionaires fail to deliver, which you could make a case that they are and often do. He gave no detail. This is part of the criticism, isn't it? He's not given much on detail. Perhaps, as you were pointing out with Blair, using the whole country and the businesses, the corporate sector, everybody really as a massive focus group informally.
Yeah.
No detail on size, funding source, or timetable, framing it as both a savings vehicle for future generations and a tool for national sovereignty. Yeah. It's got the right buzzwords in it, isn't it? It's already drawing fire. Initiative Liberals parliamentary leader compared the idea to past state shareholder failures, including TAP. I mean, you don't have to look far, do you, for a look in the mirror, and joked it sounded more like a socialist policy than one from Montenegro's own party. I think you were saying, Paul, it's like capitalism for the poor, but socialism for the rich, perhaps.
Yeah, and Natasha and I and you can come up with the top 10 companies they want to invest in, starting with Savannah Resources. It'll be the favorites. It'll be the mining companies, the Chinese solar panel, electricity generation. It's all the things that they're having trouble getting through, because the public actually don't want them, and the government of course forgets that it's there because of the public, and then anybody going bust who's got if you go back 10 years, we could tick off the ones the sovereign wealth fund would have bailed out, and they wouldn't have made a return on it. They would have lost money, and we'd be talking about, why did we ever set up a sovereign wealth fund? It's a complete nonsense. A herring of great red hue.
Wow, very good. A herring of great red hue, and an elephant of a pale colour, perhaps you might say as well. Going back, and the people involved may well be in Brussels, as you mentioned before, long after they've made those decisions, or not that long after they've made those decisions, but elsewhere doing other work and not facing any responsibility for the decisions made. Going back to the EU, Adrian's here this morning. Oh, and so is Juice Ian 100, very hot, a weather report from the UK. They're carrying on the British obsession with weather. In terms of conventional classical political theory, the European Union, like Canada and Liechtenstein, for example, is a confederation, not a federation, as individual components can leave, as they've shown. Portugal co-finances 80% of expenditure with the EU, way above the 40% for the next highest member state, Croatia. Very interesting, Adrian. Thank you. Sovereign Wealth Fund has done Norway a power of good, now the biggest in the world, earning far more than its income from other sources for a population of less than 5 million. I guess it's a different country with a different head, perhaps. I mean that intellectually and in terms of intelligence. Can we compare ourselves to Norway? We do have a connection, of course, with apoiado.
With Norway, it goes back to my first comment that sovereign wealth funds are set up if you've got massive surpluses created, in Norway's case, from oil and gas.
Yes, quite.
What else are they going to do with it? They put it in sovereign wealth fund. Fine, it's invested for the future of all Norwegians, and it works brilliantly. But the money is literally falling off a tree.
Yes.
Portugal is not. It's having to be earned. It's having to be taxed. It's having to be a lot of. As was pointed out by the commentator, a lot comes from Brussels anyway. So Portugal needs to be hugely realistic about where it really is and look at its internal structure that's still not good. It goes on about, we're investing in all these sunrise industries and tech and this, that, and the other, but you go back to the man in the street, the wage levels, this, that, and the other. It's still a low wage economy, and that's the bit that needs to change.
I think this is what's the sad part, is that we've just had some experts in it's on the website. I don't know if it's on the front page of the website, but some experts have been saying, we are going to have many more people in poverty as a result of all these this latest government is doing things and running with the ball and saying the economy and this is fantastic, renewable energies and everything, but they're leaving people behind.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we are going to be really back to, we have always been one of the barefoot sisters of Europe, and we are still barefoot, but they're pretending that we're wearing, I don't know, Crocs.
High heels, perhaps. High heels for a Saturday night. I know the feeling. Right. If you'll permit me, from the very serious news coming in from Venezuela and adding to the scorn there around the PM's sovereign wealth fund ideas, let's finish with a prompt I've taken from Michael Bruja's article. Over 200 Portuguese formally complain about dating apps. It is a national sport, complaining, no question about that. My neighbour was saying to me, all people do, my Portuguese neighbour, he said, all people do here is complain. Oh, there I am complaining about their complaining, he observed, which I thought was a very good moment of self-reflection and introspection there. But it is a national sport. I'm not making a judgment about that. And I think that's quite a small number, actually, for people complaining about the likes of Coogly, which I've not heard of, Plenty of Fish, OkCupid, Bumble and Tinder. Others are available, of course, with varying degrees of severity and success, I suspect as well. But the question I want to ask you both, and if you're watching and thinking to yourself, I'd like to meet a special someone, what's the best way to do that in Portugal? Surely in a country with this wonderful sense of family and community that we celebrate, the best way is to get to know people and meet them, as the young people say, IRL, in real life. What do you think, Natasha? Get to know a Portuguese grandma or auntie and then ask
exactly. I mean, there's no question. You just go out there and you meet people. There's no, it's the way it happens. And also the lovely thing about, I think, this country is that we all talk to each other all the time, whether you're in the bank or everybody just talks to each other and tells them that, I mean, there's one particularly sweet man in Intermarché, and it's fatal if you ask him how he is, because he'll tell you everything, down to his bowel movements, everything else.
Oh, but really? Right. Okay.
The thing is you always meet people here, and there's absolutely no reason. I mean, maybe I'm just at the wrong generation, because I've never.
Well, I thought you would have ideas on that. So I've got a cat that's come into the studio. I'm sure you would have ideas based on the generation you come from about this. And so, yes, go out and meet people, talk to people in the old-fashioned way. Yes.
Yeah, it never stops. Life is a constant feast. But I've never, even thought about a dating app.
No, right.
I don't know, Paul, you haven't either.
You don't have to say whether you have or not, Paul. I'm just interested in more general advice to people looking for a special someone.
Yeah, I can hand on heart, so I've never even looked up a dating app website.
Fair enough. Okay.
But how do you meet people? I think if, like Natasha and I, you've lived here a while, we've got wide networks, we bump into people, we know a lot of people, and that's what happens. And that's like pre-web world. If you're out there and sociable, you meet people, and that's fine. And you might meet somebody that you connect with. I think people coming to in the scenario, if you're single and come to Portugal to do whatever, and then you sort of stop and take a deep breath and say, well, how do I meet the someone to date? I think that's a very different situation. I think apps then can be hugely useful, but also so is Facebook, so are local groups, so are getting out there, so is if I'm sat near Figueira dos Vinhos, and the other day I went into the camera to get a document, and it's their festival day, and the guy was telling me all about Tony Carrera's coming to sing, and I thought,
yes,
really good reason to stay in.
Stop it.
There are other people. By the time I fought my way back to the front door of the camera to get out, I talked to about 10 different people that were there. They were asking questions. They were using the camera as an information point.
Yes.
And I was saying, well, no, Tony Carrera's tonight, and he's down in the park. And where do we get ticket? And I haven't, because I just had the conversation. I knew all the answers. But I think if you're out there and mixing and approachable and smile and say bon dia when you walk into a cafe, it kind of happens, doesn't it? I mean,
exactly. Hence the phrase: if you can't pull in Portugal, you could. There's probably an appropriate ending to that aphorism.
I hate to know it.
It's okay. We have a few more comments. Thank you both for your responses there. But yeah, get out there. What you might find is a friend of mine, he bought a house in Portugal, foreigner. And apparently the lady who was selling it did have a hidden agenda. It was either her daughter or her niece. She made her decision on selling the house based on the eligibility of the man being a suitable match for her daughter or niece. Isn't that great and old-fashioned? And it's going very well.
Work? Did it work?
Going very well. It's going very well. Isn't that beautiful?
How marvellous.
I'm buying a hat. Right. Last few comments, talking about Portugal state finances is like talking about a non-existing country gone extinct dead. This is Rui, Portuguese, saying that, not us.
Rui, does he live in England, though?
Well, he may or may not wish to say so, including whether he uses dating
Portugal,
apps.
probably.
Absolutely agree that Portugal must be very careful about where it is. I thought this said cod going back to Norway. Cold is a problem for the elderly. Is cod a problem for the elderly? I think not. Second only to Bulgaria in the EU. And people should learn acceptance of the facts. This is sobering, Rui. Then move on. Salvation is now individual. Oh, my goodness. And Paul, on dating apps, we know what you did last summer. Ooh, he's not all gloom and doom. He's joking there. Thank you, Rui, for your contributions. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Natasha. We'll be back with Chris
next week.
And we wish you a bon fin semana. Take care. Bye for now. And please subscribe. Ciao, ciao.